Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we will be unboxing, taking a first look, and reviewing the MEEPO V5 electric skateboard. This is the 5th generation of MEEPO's flagship classic budget electric skateboard. It currently sells for $429, making it one of the most affordable electric skateboards on the market at the moment. So getting into the unboxing, the board came double boxed with an inner box containing a MEEPO V5 graphic. Inside the box, the first thing on top is the V5 electric skateboard. Underneath that are all of the accessories included with the board. The first accessory is the remote. This remote is very simple and only includes the most basic features. There is no screen for live data, which is rare these days. The remote is very compact and feels like it's made from a cheaper and more flimsy plastic. The shape is comfortable to hold though, in my opinion. Next, there is a warning label and an instruction manual, which is always important to read before using the board for the first time, especially as a beginner. There's also a charger, which is a pretty standard looking electric skateboard charger. It comes with a classic DC barrel jack charge port and charges at a rate of 1.5 amps, which is a little bit on the slower side. To go with the charger, there's also a USB-C wall power adapter as we are located in the US. To charge the remote controller, there is a USB-C cable, and finally there's a T-tool as standard with pretty much every electric skateboard. Here's a closer look at all of the accessories included with the MEEPO V5. With the unboxing done, we are now going to take a first look at the MEEPO V5 and go over all of the components used on the board. The first part is the deck, which is 38.1 inches long and 9.4 inches wide. The board features a very mellow radial concave and is made from 8-ply of Canadian maple. The shape of the deck is reminiscent of the classic boosted shape, which is typical among many of these budget boards. MEEPO have added some really nice features to the deck, such as the nose and tail guard and the integrated handle for easy carrying. The grip tape on the deck is very clean with pretty minimal logoing. I think MEEPO's also done a great job with the decals on the bottom of the deck, which also look very clean. The wheels are 90mm and remind me a lot of a mini version of the Mad eSkate 105mm wheels. The inner core is Kegel, but the outside is a cap so you can't see the core. The contact patch is 65mm and the durometer is 78A. The trucks are the 5th generation of MEEPO's 45-degree RKP shredder trucks with 92A durometer bushings. The rear truck is a hub motor specific shredder truck, which holds the 2 hub motors. These hub motors are 500 watts each for a combined power output on the board of 1000 watts. The sleeves on the hub motors are 83A in durometer. The board uses split enclosures. The front enclosure holds the battery, which is a 10S2P battery. It is 144 watt hours, which is on the smaller side for a board in its price range these days. The charge port is also located on the front enclosure at the very front and is under a waterproof cap. This front enclosure is made from a much more durable material than past MEEPO boards, and it's also a little bit more boxy than previous boards like the V4S. The rear enclosure holds the ESC, which is the Lingy FOC ESC version 1.0. This rear enclosure feels really well designed to me for a board in this price range. There is a nice waterproof power switch on the top of the enclosure with a subtle battery indicator above. There's also a beautiful metal heatsink on the rear of the enclosure to keep the ESC cool. Like the front enclosure, it's made from a harder material and is on the boxier side. The enclosures are both rated for an IPX5 waterproof grade rating, which is more splash/puddle proof or water resistant than actual full waterproof. As for weight, this board is relatively portable with a weight of 17.8 pounds. Having gone over all of the components used on this board, I am now going to dive into an in-depth review of my experience with the MEEPO V5 electric skateboard. This section will be split into categories detailing each of the various specs on the board. Because the remote does not have live telemetry data, all of the speed and range values come from GPS-based data, which may not be as accurate. The first category is the top speed. The advertised top speed on the V5 is 28 miles an hour. From my top speed tests on the board, I was able to get 26.4 miles an hour or 42.5 kilometers an hour. I found this top speed to be plenty for a beginner board like the V5. MEEPO advertises the range on the V5 standard range board to be 11 miles. In my range test with an 150-pound rider in 80-degree weather on hilly terrain riding aggressively, I was able to get 7.5 miles or 12 kilometers. This is a third less than what MEEPO advertises, but it's important to remember that range is dependent on all of the factors that I listed above and more. I think it's possible to get 11 miles of range in perfect conditions riding conservatively with a lighter rider. For the most part though, I would expect to get anywhere from 8 to 10 miles or 13 to 16 kilometers of range out of the board. This is on the lower side for an electric skateboard in this price range, as some options can get reliably above 10 miles of range and have batteries over 200 watt hours. The advertised hill climb rating on this board is 18% or 10 degrees, but these hill climb ratings usually don't mean too much with these budget boards. With boards in the realm of $400 to $500, I find that the hill climbing is usually good enough to get up pretty much any hill you'd encounter on a daily basis. The caveat to this is that it just won't do it very quickly. In relation to other similarly priced boards, I found that the hill climbing ability on the V5 is pretty much average. There are some other boards that I have tried out that are a little bit faster on hills, but the V5 holds its own for its price. The acceleration and braking on this board is made for beginners and thus is very comfortable. The acceleration is very smooth and intuitive, especially for beginners. Being a beginner board, it does not have a whole lot of kick to it, so I wouldn't recommend it for someone looking for a more punchy board. The brakes on the board are surprisingly strong, especially in the highest speed mode. I personally like my brakes strong, so I enjoyed them on this board. This being said, I think that they can be a little bit too sensitive and jerky for beginner riders at times. More than once, I was a little bit caught off guard when I tapped the brakes going full speed. One thing that's nice about the brakes is that the motors will lock once the board gets slow enough. This means that you can fully come to a stop on hills. The ride feeling and comfort on this board were among the best for boards that I've tried in this price range. I found this deck to be extremely comfortable to ride. Not only was the deck nice and wide, but the mellow concave just felt good. The deck is also relatively flexible, which when coupled with the split enclosures absorbs a lot of the road vibrations. The board also handles cracks and bumps in the road pretty well for a budget hub motor board. The wheels were also some of the softest and smoothest that I've tried on a board in this price range. When it comes to the ride feeling, these shredder trucks felt really good and carvy, which surprised me. If I had to describe the ride feeling of this board in one word, it would be simple, because the board just feels easy and comfortable to ride. It really does feel great for beginners. The first thing to talk about in miscellaneous topics are the options on this board. The board in this video is the standard range version, which has an 144 watt hour battery. There is also an option for the extended range battery, which is double the size at 288 watt hours and costs $599.99. MEEPO also allegedly has an upgrade to 105mm wheels on the board, though that is not listed as an option for purchase on the site as of the making of this video. Secondly, I just wanted to take a second to talk about the handle, which I really like. It makes transporting this board so much easier and is a game-changing feature for anyone that is wanting a board for commuting where they would need a handle to carry the board. Third is the remote. The remote on this board feels very cheap, especially without the display. It is comfortable to hold and works perfectly fine, but the lack of a display makes it much more difficult to track board battery, remote battery, and speed while riding. So here are my concluding thoughts on the MEEPO V5 electric skateboard. The specs on this board are mostly on par with other similarly priced budget electric skateboards, with the range being slightly below average. The acceleration is smooth, but the brakes are strong, which can be a shock to beginners at first and is something to be aware of. When it comes to the ride feeling and comfort of this board, the MEEPO V5 excels. It's one of the most comfortable $400 to $500 electric skateboards that I've tried. I would describe the MEEPO V5 as a simple and minimalist electric skateboard. The board was clearly designed with the intent of being for beginners, and I think that it's done this very effectively. That's it for my review on the MEEPO V5 electric skateboard. If you're interested in learning more about this board, we will leave a link to it in the description below. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know in the comment section below as well. Finally, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for lots of other electric skateboard reviews. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.